I will say in that race, the thing that fascinates me most, and I don't think that leaking is going to have that much of an impact on that race, because what matters most are President Obama's numbers in that race. And a Democratic firm that had a poll out in the last 24 hours has Obama's approval rating at 31% in a district that Democrats haven't lost since the 1920s.
That's amazing.
Hey, among independents, 16% favorable rating for President Obama district. And I'm often reluctant to read too much into what happens in an individual special election, but when you have the president performing that poorly in a district that is his turf, he won with 55% of the vote last time around, that is a warning sign, a danger sign, and that's why you have all these stories circulating about how panicked Democrats are at the base about his performance right now.
Well, and so, Jim, so first of all, sorry, I thought that we were talking about the story and that you were aware of it. I didn't realize you were doing another aspect.
No, it's all right.
So I'll ask somebody else that question later. But let's touch on this, because this is a much bigger issue for Democrats. You have a special happening in Anthony Weiner's district where it looks like a Republican could win, which would be shocking. The president's numbers are collapsing there. Same thing in Nevada. You have a special election where the Democrats have, in fact, given up.
Yep, again, you got to be hesitant to draw too big a conclusion, but in these two districts where you usually don't have polling data this early in a lot of congressional districts, and when you look at districts, particularly the New York one, that are so favorable for the president in the last election, and he's doing so poorly now, it really speaks to his fundamental problems and why so many Democrats are nervous. He has got to figure out a way to turn that around. If he were to go into 2012 and his favorable rating is 30% in Democratic districts, he would get wiped out. And there's no doubt there's plenty of time to change it. But that's the reason that in some ways he has a very weakened presidency right now, because everybody feels free to speak out against him. I could count 10 or 15 different stories I've read in the last week where you have tons of Democrats on the record openly questioning his strength as a leader.
Wow.
And that speaks to that strength that they'll go out there and say that, because they would not have done that 6 months ago.
Joe Conason, there obviously is a lot of blame to go around with what's happened over the past several years, the past decade. In fact, it's proved, don't they, at the end, it's the guy at the top that gets the credit or the blame.
There's just no question. Usually in that particular district in Queens and Brooklyn, you could nominate anybody, and this is not a particularly distinguished candidate, and there might be a Republican running against him, there might not, but that person would get elected. This is what the Democrats have done this time. They put up a hack candidate as usual, and it's not flying, and it's because of the president.
Wow. And that independent number really jumps out. He's 16%.
Can you believe that?
In Anthony Weiner's district.
Strongly Democratic district.